Before the video begins, I would ask that you all go into the description and click on the Strawpoll link and give your answers to that. It pertains to the content that I'm going to be making over the next couple months, basically what you guys are interested in. So please go ahead and do that, and without further ado, here is the video for today. Many tournament results the last couple weeks have really shown that Dark World Danger FTK is by far, maybe not by far, but it certainly is the best deck of the format. And admittedly, for me, like as with many other players, for this reason, I've lost a little bit of interest in playing competitively. And, I've even kind of gotten into Duel Links, which is something that I thought would never happen. I've been playing vampires, and that's in some ways a lot more fun than dealing with that particular FTK. I'm here to talk to you today about FTKs overall, though, their existence in Yu-Gi-Oh!, and why some FTKs are fine. Definitely the strength and power of Danger Dark World FTK has given rise to this opinion among a lot of players that's being expressed on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Subreddit, in YouTube comment sections, that all FTKs must die, that they should all be hit, and FTK should not exist in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I understand why. Obviously, it can be pretty unfun to lose the game before you even get to play. On the other hand, I do believe that some FTKs are fine, and only when we have extreme examples, such as the Pendulum Magician FTK or the Danger Dark World FTK, do we really need to aggressively pursue it. I think that Gem Knights is sort of an interesting case because we already sort of hit it a little, not in a way that prevents it from being done, but certainly hurts its consistency and its alternative options. So first off, I do think that for the vast majority of players that are really of this all FTKs must die opinion, probably 90% plus are either players that are kind of just salty casuals, I guess. I don't really know how else to describe them. They're players that are upset that they got FTK'd by Gem Knights once when they were playing their rogue deck without any hand traps. I think the other players in this sort of 90% that I'm talking about are players that just haven't really played with or against these FTKs very much, and are more just against the idea of them rather than having actual experience against them. I do think there are kind of the other 10% of players who are more competitive, playing competitive decks, and they do understand them. They either have played them or they've played against them a lot, they understand to some significant degree how they work, and they still are just super vehemently against them. I do have to say that FTKs are, in many ways, a creative outlet in Yu-Gi-Oh! Most FTKs are not consistent at all. A lot of them have, maybe a 10% success rate, but they're just really cool combos that really leverage creativity with the card pool in Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't think anyone should really have any problem with those. They might take a game every once in a while, but will pretty much never take a match, especially considering that they very fragile. Not only do you have to open the particular cards, but they die to only one disruption. I think that's a theme that scales up through most of the FTKs we have right now. Even Gem Knight and Zephyr FTK often just simply lose to a single disruption. Even if they don't lose to one disruption, they are quite difficult to pilot at times. They really have to play around a lot of things. And where the Danger Dark World FTK really crosses the line is that, one, it's not very punishing. Often can go through multiple disruptions. Notable exceptions include Droll and Lockbird and Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Those are pretty much the only exceptions. They can survive an Ash, they can survive an Ogre, Veiler, Permanence, whatever. Pretty much always they can FTK through that. And even if they can't, they have a lot of alternative options. They can extra link you, they can OTK you, all those sorts of things. Gem Knight FTK can OTK you for sure, but when it's going first, when it's really trying to actually FTK you, it doesn't have a lot of alternative options. If you fail to FTK, especially now that Master Diamond has been limited, a lot of people are questioning why they did that instead of limiting Lady Lapis Lazuli, which completely killed the FTK. I'm not sure if Konami really planned to keep the FTK around, but I think it did actually do a pretty good job of hitting the deck, because if you don't FTK, originally you could make 2 Master Diamond and overlay them into the True King of All Calamities, which was still a decent opening. Definitely better than just having no disruptions at all. But now, because they only have 1 Master Diamond, they can't do that. So they're really their only opening board, kind of the best plan B they have, is maybe a couple fusions and a block dragon. Not really all that oppressive. And even if they are more consistent and they are more competitive, I don't think that takes away from the fact that they are oftentimes very creative creations at the beginning. Even once they get net decked, I don't think that really takes anything away from that. They're just fun. A lot of the time, many of them are quite entertaining to play. I think they're actually more entertaining to play against also than some people will give them credit for, especially if you have hand traps. If you can stop the FTK and actually turn it into a grind game, interacting with those decks at that level can actually be quite interesting a lot of the time. As someone who's played Gem Knights and played against it, playing grind games with that deck can be quite interesting. Overall, I just don't really agree with the sentiment that all FTKs have to die. I've laid out a few reasons why. Mostly it comes down to, I think they are a creative outlet in the game. Most of them don't actually really have alternative options, and they aren't the most consistent. They either aren't the most consistent thing, or they die to just one disruption. Sometimes both of those are true, and I just don't really see the big issue. I think they're fine to keep around. They're just kind of a different kind of deck. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game that has 1 or 2 kinds of decks that are always played. Either you have these super aggro-y control decks. I think some good examples in the past are Dragon Rulers, I guess, is a good one. Or we have kind of these very control-y decks with some minor aggro and stun components. Paleozoic Frogs is a great example of that. And that's sort of the only 2 kinds of decks we have for the most part. And Burn, although it can feel bad to play against sometimes, it is a different kind of deck to play with and against. And I think that's something that should definitely be taken into consideration. It's not as though other games don't have alternative win conditions. A kind of deck that we don't really have to deal with in Yu-Gi-Oh! That is a problem in games like Magic is Mill, where they actually try to make you deck out. Yes, that can sometimes be more interactive over the course of many more turns, but it is ultimately just a stun deck that is milling cards off of the top of your deck, and that can be pretty equally unfun at times. But I think for the same reasons that sometimes burn decks can be fun to play against, trying to outplay the mill player can also be entertaining. I think that basically outlines the point I'm trying to make, which is that some FTKs I think are fine. I think burn decks in general can be fine. We are in a modern game with hand traps, and the game should be balanced around those hand traps, and we shouldn't necessarily hit FTKs like Gem Knight FTK just because some players don't have access to hand traps that can help make those matchups more survivable. Controversial opinion, but that's just how I see it. You can give your opinion in the comment section below if you wish, and I will see you guys in my next video.